Hey all, Pastor Sam here with your Latin American War report. Today is the first day of June 2019. Great concern in Central America. The United States Embassy has been set afire. It has been set afire in the capital of Tegucigalpa, Honduras. This is the second day of protests against President Juan Orlando Hernandez. I'm going to break this down for you just in generalities. I'm very sad that this is happening in the Americas, that we have this degree of conflict, and that the United States has not waded into the melee on this. Mr. President, we need troops in Honduras and in Guatemala immediately. Immediately. I called for this in November. I called for it in October. I called for it all through the new year of 2019, and I'm not seeing any troops in Honduras and in Guatemala. These are allied nations. They have Trumpist presidents that are heavily embattled. And now the U.S. Embassy is being burnt down. Now, okay, let's go first to I'm going to go to Guatemala first. In Guatemala, the president, Jimmy Morales, a great hero, a supporter of Israel, who moved his embassy to Jerusalem out of Tel Aviv, first nation to do so after the United States made that move. He's embattled. His White House has been broken into. Look further down on my thread for in the Latin American War reports, you'll see his White House has been broken into. It's called La Casa Crema, the Cream House, the Presidential Palace of Guatemala, by the CICIG, which is a United Nations Anti-Corruption Division. Now, he's not corrupt. This is an attempt to try to force him from power so that the dominoes can fall, so that socialist El Salvador can collapse into Honduras and Guatemala, and there will be nothing in the way for all UN organized migration to bring weaponized migrants in from all points South America, from Bolivia, from Venezuela, etc., all the way down. The dominoes will fall if we don't get troops in there. Now, while we have been trying to negotiate with Mexico, the Mexican president is socialist. He wants to advance socialism on the continent. He wants to advance communism on the continent. That's why he's doing as little as possible. He's dragging his feet and really playing games with President Trump and the U.S. Now there's tariffs out. They're damaging the Mexican economy. He also has not delivered on any economic growth. He promised that the economy would grow. Our U.S. growth is at 4%. Obama said it'll never happen. You'll never beat 3% without a magic wand. Well, 1 or 2% has been typical, and the Mexican economy is at negative 0.2%. It has contracted in the 6 months that AMLO has been president. So the heat is starting to turn up on him. And when communists get the heat turned up on them, this is what they do. They go to war and they implement their socialist policies. So Mexico's been no help in stemming the migrants, and even though we have a renewed promise from them that there's going to be some help, it's unlikely. So what we need to do is put troops in Guatemala and put troops in Honduras. Now, I was in touch with the Guatemalan embassy in Mexico City, and the president was very open to doing an interview, but when he met with AMLO, all of a sudden that changed. AMLO promised the presidents of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador the moon. He promised them, look, we will get tons of globalist money, we'll rebuild your countries, we'll integrate our electrical grids, we'll do all these wonderful things, and socialism will rise. So when they promised these presidents, Guatemalan, Honduran, and El Salvadorian presidents, the moon, those two that were Trumpists, which is the Honduran and the Guatemalan president, they backed off from their co-laborership with Trump and with Mike Pence. They'd had a whole series of summits with Mike Pence on how they were going to stem immigration. Well, all that talk has really died off because they're waiting to see if AMLO is going to deliver on getting them these gobs of socialist money to rebuild their countries from the ground up. Well, that's not the American way. We stimulate commerce, we stimulate industry, jobs. We get fair trade agreements. Pretty soon everybody's lifting themselves up by their bootstraps. That's the American way. It's the American way that we failed to present to these nations, that we failed to get our missionaries out there, show them the gospel, show them the American way, the Protestant work ethic, etc., etc. I had a call come in. I hope I'm still recording. Now, there's great embattlement. Other than the CICIG in Guatemala, there is the arrest of the brother of the Honduran president. The Honduran president is Juan Orlando Hernandez. His brother is Anthony Alvarado Hernandez, known as Tony Hernandez. He was arrested in November in Miami, and he has been cooperating with the DEA and the United States government. I read the majority of his interview yesterday where he declined legal assistance. He offered to answer questions without an attorney present, and he denied accepting any bribes or having anything to do with the drug traffickers. Now, he's naming a lot of names, and he knows a lot of drug traffickers in the nation of Honduras. He knows who they all are. Hopefully, he will tell where all the bodies are buried. This trial cannot be like so many other trials. His prosecutors or his interviewers were asking him, did you ever accept money? Did you ever take this? Did you ever get this? Did they ever say, we want you involved in this? I'm going to tell you something. There is always some degree of involvement in the third world because there is always a threat. There's always a threat. In the Spanish language, it's called plata o plomo. Either you take the money or we kill you. We give you the silver and you take it, or we give you the lead bullets. So you're not ever going to find somebody who's 100% squeaky clean in the third world. It's not going to happen. However, Mr. Trump, these presidents will help you if you help them. Now, in part, the documents have been released for the Tony Hernandez trial. In those documents, there is a discussion of President Juan Orlando Hernandez and that he was being investigated by the DEA. But here's the thing. There is a deep state within the DEA. There is a deep state within the FBI. And now there are Central American and Latin American world leaders being suspected and being hauled into court while their countries collapse. And Mexico is one of them. And the person investigated in that case is Governor Tomas Yarrington, presidential candidate, governor of the state of Tamaulipas, and rising star in a center conservative Mexico. This man could not run for president because he was too busy being in jail in the United States. Now his trial is coming up. The main trial scheduled for January 2020 as our campaign season is kicking off. Now, Mr. President, President Trump, do not allow the deep state within the DEA and the FBI to prosecute world leaders that are allied with you and that are trying to break their ties with China, with Russia, and with Chinese and Russian-backed narco-terror organizations. They're trying to get out. And I'll tell you right now, if you send Jared Kushner down to Honduras and have a heart-to-heart with President Juan Orlando Hernandez, he's going to say, hey, I'll give you all the information, but you got to give me troops. You got to give troops. Get the American military boots on the ground in Honduras. And let me tell you, there's going to be a lot less migrants hitting the Mexican border if that happens. We must have troops in Honduras and in Guatemala immediately. Every day that we don't is thousands of migrants entering into Mexico where they get a free ride to the Mexican border and into the USA. It's the only solution to the migrant crisis. Now, viewers, do not believe everything that you see. This is the Clinton Foundation working in Honduras to cast doubt on these people. In reading the statements of Tony Hernandez, he denied involvement with all these people. And the DEA did not say, look, we have a recording of you talking to this guy and here's what it contains. What do you say about that? There was no substantial evidence on that level. There was nothing of substance. Only Circumstantial. Do you know this person? When did you meet this person? All right, let's get that all out in the open and let's hang the thieves. But it's not going to happen without the help of the United States military. Even if he tells where all the bodies are buried and who all the crooks are, who's going to assault their compounds? I'll tell you right now, it can't be done without the help of a few Marines. I'm Pastor Sam reporting for newswars.com.